It's a fallen angel. It started there in the sky with the creative source, but it didn't do something right, so it fell from heaven, and now it's bad. Oh, how human of you. It's like a bad movie. And I want to tell you that did not happen. But you want to call them evil spirits, and you want to call them demons, and you want to assign darkness to them, and you want to make them this and that. I want to give you some information you need to know. These are human generated, and they're real. This planet has been open to these kinds of things because human nature has allowed it, and human consciousness has allowed it. The darkness part of humanity has allowed it. And what is going to get rid of it is you falling in love with yourself. What is going to get rid of it is you falling in love with yourself and understanding the core. This is the core issue. Who are you? Where is home? When you drop into the core, what does it mean? The laws of conscious physics will not allow darkness in with a human being who is active in loving themselves. Disease will not invade the human being who is actively involved in loving themselves. Cellular structure will become more quantum with the human being who is actively involved in loving themselves. I could go on and on and on. I want you to conjure up something. In your imagination, I want you to see the darkest thing you can imagine, the most horrific thing you've ever seen in a movie. I want you to line up legions of demons as far as you can see them, and I want you to picture yourself alone about to walk through them. Now I want you to picture yourself as a ball of light, and the physics of the light that you have repels them as you walk. And as you walk and you touch them and you give them light, they morph. And pretty soon the room is filled with life, and there's not one of them left, and there's no fear, and they cannot feed on anything. And what you have done is to change the planet itself and the very fabric of existence. How about that? That's the way it works. If you were to ask a Pleiadian, did darkness exist on their planet, and where did it come from? They would give you a list of things that are extinct. Is it true, Kryon, that there are those from outside the Earth's influence that actually come here and feed on the fear of humanity? And the answer is yes, you knew that. And the reason we never had to tell you about that is because you weren't part of it. Not really, because you're a light worker, aren't you? Or are you? The planet is turning a corner. The consciousness of humanity is starting to accelerate in its wisdom and its intelligence. And these are the things you have to know. Lightworker, listen. Healer, listen. You can walk into this puzzle with this ball of light that you have that has to do with love and integrity, and nothing is going to touch you. You can go to work into the darkest places and nothing is going to touch you. You can go and heal those who are diseased and nothing is going to touch you. Because of what you are generating from home. Imagine carrying a piece of home with you. It's time to wake up to the possibilities of the grandness and the magnificence of who you are. And when this starts to occur, everything starts to change. Everything starts to change. Self-worth, human being, old soul, starts to increase because you have the wisdom to see who you are. When you start to see what you can do, how you feel, how you can heal, how your life is starting to actually change, do you know what that does to self-worth? It increases it because you realize your value to the planet, to the universe, to the creative source. And you can glimpse a little bit of home. I want to close this by asking you, pleading with you, to start glimpsing a little home. In your meditations, when you talk to yourselves, I want you to remind them where they're from. The love of God is who you are. You are love. And none of the processes and none of the things that I told you about are going to work until there's an acknowledgement of this. It's going to change the planet to come a day when the negative things that you see right now on your news will never, just simply won't be there. Hundreds of years have taken place since you had marauding armies of conquerors and clashing with swords and shields and all of those things. You don't expect to turn on the news and see that that's coming, do you? Will there come a day when you turn on the news and you won't expect what you see today either? It'll be that different. It'll be that different. The idea of humans killing each other on purpose for effect will be barbaric. You won't even see it as human. Because when you touch this planet with home, the planet starts to resound and others start to remember what you know. The grids of the earth start to resound with it. The planet is in transition, dear one. I want you to be an active part of the transition, old soul, and I want you to start loving yourself, and this is the message of the day. And when you do, there is a reciprocation that you won't believe. When listen, when you love a human being and they love you back, there's nothing like it, right? Can you imagine reaching up and taking the hand of your higher self and feeling the reciprocation? Welcome home, welcome home, welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. And so it is.
Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner steps aside. This is the last main channeling of 2016. There will be 2 more, but not that are subject driven, as is appropriate for this meeting. And so I'm going to take it and do something I have not done before. A teaching. It's a teaching about a subject that many have asked me, for they wanted to know some of the basics of what I'm about to say. But there's a reason for the subject that I will give you in a moment. Because it is germane, that is to say, it is specific to what is happening on the planet right now. It is specific to you moving in to another year. And I want to talk to you about energies. What I want to say is that the energies I speak of are often controversial because they represent systems, ancient ones. And they represent things that some believe and some do not. And so I just want you to sit and listen. and understand more fully about some things that probably have not been explained fully to you. A reason exists for all of this, as you will see. I want to talk tonight about numerology. And I want to start with the premise. I want to continue with the definitions. I want to tell you about the numbers. I want to tell you how it exists with the shift. What it means and what it might not mean. Numerology, defined as the name, is the energy of numbers. It's simple. Numbers have energy. Now, if you say that to some people, they will look at you, roll their eyes and say, "Not in my world." Numbers are simply numbers. They denote things, and that's all. They come together for calculation, that's all. Numerology is ancient, and I want to start by apologizing to numerologists. For there are many kinds of numerology, and even the kind that I'm going to give you is extremely complex, and I only am going to give you the basics. And we're going to start with the most ancient that you can find on the planet, that is still a system that is taught. And that will be the Tibetan. But the premise is still difficult for some. How can a number mean something? How can it be anything but ink on a page or a spoken word? And if you start thinking about it, every time you see a number, it's normally part of a communication. Whether it's a calculation or perhaps it denotes a position. If you see something that is page 30, there's a message. Imagine a book with no page numbers. It would be chaotic. For you'd never be able to return to the page that you were reading without some other kind of marker. And so numbers are placed in the book. Doesn't that tell you that the number has a message? The energy of the number of a page says this is the page where things have occurred that are on the page. Not only that, there's a page before me and a page after me that have different numbers. That number on the page then tells a story. And in the story, there's energy. Now, this is just one tiny example of how a number would have a message. How a number would tell a story and not just sit there and be a number. This is the basis for generic numerology. That at the simplest way, numbers contain energies that are definable. So much so that you could derive a number and it will tell you a story. Much like the book and the page number. There are generic meanings for numbers. Now, the one that I'm going to give you right now, that I've never given you in channel to this way, will define the simplest of numbers and what they mean. But before even I do that, I will tell you that numerology exists in some systems you would never even think had anything to do with numbers. Have you talked to anyone who can read tea leaves? What are they reading? It's a combination of patterns, but more specific numbers. For you read the edges or the amount, and you derive a meaning based upon the numbers. You might have heard of those who cast the stones. What are they reading in the stones? Let me tell you a secret. They're counting sides like you would dice. And they derive a number. And the number then means something. So numerology has many faces. The ancient numerology, that is the simplest, is what we're going to describe. The simplest kind would be 1 through 9. Now, as I tell you the definitions of 1 through 9 as the Tibetans see them, I will also tell you that there are extensions to everything I'm going to describe. And the extensions are the complexity that we will not talk about. Not only that, it seems that we've left out a 0. There are meanings for the zeros, but they have to occur later in a more complex system for you to see why they would exist at all. So let's describe 1 through 9. Then let's take a look at the age that you're in. Let's take a look at the years that you're in. Let's take a look at some of the names that are surrounding you. And let us see whether there's a confluence of ideas that might be similar, based only on the numbers. There are those who will take an alphabet and assign numbers to the letters. And it won't matter what kind of alphabet, because the basis of numerology would seem to be chance. And yet there is no such thing as chance when it comes to that which is the soul on this planet. Through free choice, dear ones, you can create whatever you want to. But if you pay attention to that which is already here in the physics, in the numbers, in the colors, in the feelings, in the grids, in Gaia, it all comes together for you. And so systems are everywhere. If you take an alphabet and you assign a number to every letter, then you take your name and add up those numbers, you'll receive an answer. And the answer is an energy that is around you. And you might say, well, that's chance. And it is not. It is not chance even how you were named. We have discussed potentials. And even in this session, we have talked about the fact that there really is very little chance if you are plugged in to that which is the metaphysics of the planet. Let's look at this. Number 1. Number 1 is basically new beginnings. It's the beginning of something. It is the rewriting. It is the reframing. It means new. It is the first number. That's easy. In fact, all of the numbers are easy, and you can remember them. At their most basic, they're easy. Then it gets more complex. Number 2 is duality. It also responds to free choice. So if you get a number 2 around something, it tells you that it's going to be filled with decisions. The duality will exist, making it perhaps a more difficult puzzle. Number 2 is all filled with human free choice. Number 3 is a catalytic number. If you get a number 3 around something, you know that the energy moves other things without changing itself. It is therefore a catalyst. Many healers, many teachers will have 3s around them constantly. Some have mistook this for spiritual system 3s, which also exist. You have one in your own, you say, system of spirituality that is this culture. You split God into 3 parts. That is a catalytic number, because the 3 parts then move other things. A healer with a 3 around them would be somebody who exists without changing, and everyone who passes through their life changes. That's the 3. The 4 is an earth number. It is community. It is Gaia. It is more things than you can define, but it is the grounded number. You'll have lots of farmers. There'll be 4s. Interesting how the 4 has crept in even to social things. The 4-H club. Those who are ranchers dealing with animals. Lots of 4s everywhere. That is the energy of the 4. 5 is change. Raw change. When you see a 5 around something, it means that the energy of the situation, or the place, or the address, or the year is change. Now there are those already, only with 5 numbers, who'd said, I don't really agree with any of this. I could live my life without knowing these things. And you're right, because you have free choice. You can just steamroll right over all of them. And they won't affect you, not really, because you are your own number. You're the number of obstinance. You are the number that steamrolls over other numbers. That is the free choice you have. You don't have to believe in these things, and they won't affect you, not really, because you will then steamroll through them. Kryon, you mean that if I get a number of change in something, it won't affect me with change? This is difficult to explain, dear one. If you don't believe it, and you don't cognize it, that is to say, it is not something that is your reality and your truth, it won't affect you near as much. No, it won't. Because you are almost in another paradigm of your own. My partner was in this way until I met him. He believed none of these things, was sensitive to nothing. And so numbers to him simply were numbers. And he'd be then like we're describing. But if you understand these things and you're part of the system, and with free choice, you cognize this, you can find out so many things. Because then you are on board and sensitive to what the metaphysics is of the planet. Number 6, difficult. It is a spiritual number, a high one. But it really, truly means harmony. So the energy of the 6 is that of harmony. As you can see, some of these numbers would be wonderful to have as an underlying address, for instance, of where you are or where you're going, or perhaps the numerology of a project based upon its name to be a 6. So it's cooperative and harmonious. And that brings us to something else. There are many names that are developed only from the numerology. Some humans will change the name they are given, creating a name that adds up numerologically to a better number for them. And you might say, does that work that way? Let me tell you something. If human beings start calling you by another name, that name will contain an energy, because they're speaking it, because you changed it, because you had the intent. And yes, it works. Number 7 does mean spirituality. All things that are 7s then might have a spiritual overtone or a basis. Good numbers for altars, for other kinds of organizations, for activities where you actually talk about the things which are meaningful to you and spiritual. Number 8 is manifestation and abundance. Everybody wants an 8. And it doesn't have to necessarily be money. For you can manifest health. You can manifest life, long life. You can manifest a powerful immune system. You can be abundant in the chemistry of your body, which will keep you from having disease. So manifestation and abundance have many meanings. but they're all that which gives you things and enables you to create things in abundance. Number 9, the active number of the day, is completion. Completion can mean many things. It could mean the end of something, but it's completed. So you're done. A 9 would be graduation. You have finished the course. And the day you graduate would be a good day for a 9. It speaks of the end of something. And it can be mostly the end of paradigms, of systems. It can also be the end of sorrow. It can be the end of a certain way of thinking in society. It can be the end of an old way. The end of a project. The termination of something that existed before. Now those are the 9. And we have never defined them in this way in a channel. Now, this gets complicated. And so we're not going to go any further than telling you about the complications. First, what happens when you have numbers that sit next to each other on a page? One number affects another, depending upon the energy of its number. Many numbers do not sit next to each other sequentially. You have 481, for instance. The 8, which is abundance, is affected by the 1, depending upon how long it's been there. You might even say it's a quantum numerology, because the numbers around it have influence on it. We're not going to talk about that. Each number, are you ready, has its own astrology attributes. And all of the planets are involved in the numerology, and it changes depending upon the situation, just like astrology changes minute by minute. So if you really want to see the complexity of the systems that not only identify the number and the energy of something, but then goes on to see the astrological attributes of that something, it can then redefine it and take it into paths that make it very, very specific. Those are just 2 areas we will not talk about. I want to keep this simple because I want to show you where you are. Let's start with the precession of the equinoxes. There are numbers involved. The way numerology works is that no matter how long a number is, you add it up to one number. Now there is only one exception in this simplistic numerology to that axiom. So first, no matter how long the number is, get one number. And that's the energy you're dealing with. The exception is when you have 2 numbers which are identical, which stand alone next to them. 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, all the way up to 99. These are identified as master numbers. The master numbers will have identities and energies of their own. 11, for instance, is illumination. The 22 is a strong duality. The 33 is the most compassionate number that you have. For those of you who saw 1111 on the clocks for years, it was a foretelling of illumination to come. Illumination, illumination, 1111. That's what it meant. You don't add the 1 and the 1 to get a 2. For 11 is the master number. And then you see it twice for emphasis. It foretold, dear ones, for years of the 1111 illumination shift that is upon you. Light will win. You can see now why 1111 was only on the clocks so much before the shift and not necessarily afterwards. Not many of you are seeing 1111 anymore. And if you do, it's just a reminder that you're in the shift that was foretold. Now, the odd thing about master numbers is that they're only identified to 33. What a coincidence, is it not, that this is the active number of your DNA. 44 is unknown. 55 and beyond will not be understandable. And what the Tibetans said about that is that when your DNA, they didn't say DNA, they said consciousness reaches a certain point of understanding, the master numbers past 33 can be identified. In other words, they contain concepts which are beyond your understanding at the moment, and it's not science. It's compassionate action. It's behavior that you haven't seen yet. It's mastery. It talks about mastery that you don't have yet. And so it's undefined. 33 is defined as the compassion of the Master. The highest compassion that is known to exist in humanity is a 33. What did you think when the 33 miners came out of the ground in Chile? Did you know that those who reported it said there were 33s everywhere? Not just a number of the miners, the times of days when they arrived, the numbers of drilling scenarios. It went on and on. 33 was everywhere. And those who studied numerology knew what was going to happen, that they would all come out of the ground completely and totally healthy and safe, that there would be celebration and joy and tears. The compassion of the Master was there. Even before the drilling began, you could see it coming. You could feel it. They're going to find him. They're going to be okay. And they were. Do you see how some numerology targets the energy of what's going to take place? The precession of the equinoxes is a 26,000-year wobble of the earth. That is an 8. Because the wobble of the earth is not what we're talking about. It's what happens if you make it past the center point. December 21, 2012. It is the story of manifestation. The abundance that is manifested with that 26,000-year wobble is the earth going into graduate status, into mastery, into DNA, which is going to start to arrive at a higher rate. You're in it. You passed it. It's been manifested. That's why it's 26,000. Did you ever put these numbers together? There's no accidents here. The precession of the equinox itself, the time it takes for this wobble to change the sky as it walks through the Milky Way, is 36 years. 9. Stand by for the 9s. For the precession of the equinoxes yells 9, 9, 9, 9. It's the end of the old, the beginning of the new. 18 years into it, 9. 18 years out of it, 9. The 9s are king when it comes to the shift. And it says over and over, the old is going away. Everything you thought was the value you might have as a human is going to change, and it's going to be greater than you ever conceived it would be. The love of God is going to pour through your consciousness someday. Babies are going to be born and know who they are. There's going to be a consciousness on the planet above 44, even 55, which you will start to actually have the attributes of mastery. You might even master time, maybe even life itself.
Physics will start to be that which you can manipulate. Dear ones, this is high consciousness, and you've seen it in the masters. It's going to take a long time. The ones who seeded you went through this exact same thing. They didn't have a precession. They didn't have a wobble of their planet. They had another scenario completely, but it was from the stars. And it had to do with suns that were close to them coming together in a certain way. And when they did, and they only did, in thousands of years apart, something happened, and they made the shift. The same shift you did. And their consciousness started to shift and change. Their history was worse than yours. We have said this before. You think you've had marginal genocide with the wars that you've had and the sorrow that you'd suffer. They had full genocide. And yet they recovered completely from it. The ones who seeded you, dear ones, have gone through it more than you did. How long did it take them from their precession, from their shift, to where they could seed you? I'm not even willing to tell you how long it is, because you'll be depressed. To think that you might have to be there as long. Dear ones, I want you to change your attitude of time. You measure time by how long you live. That's how you measure it. You look at a lifespan, and it has an energy from the number of years. What if I told you that's not accurate, because you are eternal. You will always be here. Lifetime after lifetime after a lifetime, and you'll start awakening in lives that are remembering while you're here. The next time you come, yes, you're coming back. Did you hear me? The next time you come, you'll awaken with the knowledge you're not going to make the mistakes you did this time. This is the old soul moving into an energy that's different. It'll be the first time you awakened in the energy after the shift. First time. And it'll be much different than when you awakened the last time. That is to say, when you were born, there was one energy of birth. And from this time forward, when you're born, there'll be another energy. You are going to know you're an old soul. You're going to have the wisdom not to make the mistakes you made this time. People will see you as different. Children are starting to shift even now. And they're going to shift so much and so fast, you'll say there's a day when all of them will be prodigies as you measure them today. It's simply growing up. Instead of being in the playground, now you're in a situation where you see each other and you enjoy each other. What happens when you grow up? This is what happens when you grow up. From 8 to 18, you come alive socially. And you're so different. That's what's happening to humanity. You won't go to war. And you won't kill another human being because you know them. They won't be mysterious. They won't be anything that you would terminate as a solution to a puzzle. And you will look back on that very thing and you'll say, that's barbaric to the max. And you'd never consider it. So far out of the consciousness of terminating any life. That's who you're going to be. The 9 that represents the whole wobble, 26 years, the manifestation culminating into the 9s that you see now, is the end of an old kind of civilization. Everything you've ever been, human being, has happened in the last 26,000 years. You've always been in the energy of the wobble as it exists now. The new wobble has begun. You see, it continues to wobble, except this wobbles differently with a brand new number. Dear ones, I want you now to look upon the year you're in. 2016. What a coincidence. It's a 9. There's 9s everywhere. Now what does this 9 mean? It means that the recalibration energy that took place in 2012 is at an end. That the frustration of trying to find a new frequency to tune into, because the shift has created that is going away. It means that the sun is coming out in so many of your lives. And the astrology that was given today enhances this. It speaks of the identical same thing that the numerology does. Next year is a 1. Now the cycle of years will create that. There will be many 9s and 1s together. But we're talking about right now a 9. It represents tremendous change as well, because anytime you wrap something up and you change a paradigm and move into something else, you'll find some emanations of a 5. Perhaps yet to be seen, but you'll see it in the astrology. All this about numbers. Who are you right now? That you could then look at this and make some sense of it. And I close with this. Everything that's happening numerologically right now has come to fruition and is painting a picture of new beginnings. You may sit in a puzzle right now that you do not see your way out of. And I'm going to give you some advice. You are sitting in a few days in an energy of the One that shouts to you new beginnings. Even if you are beyond that which is cheerful, even though perhaps you cannot even find the joy factor inside you, I want you to build an altar of joy, physical or mental. And I want you to go to that altar and thank Spirit for what is going to take place and is taking place in your heart, your mind, and your life. And if you do that, you will be sending a magic signal that cooperates with the planet, with the field, with the numerology of the year, and all those things. It'll see your intent, and things begin to shift. This is the beauty of a physics that knows who you are. This is the beauty of a creator who created the physics and knows who you are. You see, they're related. You get that, don't you? Everything is related to everything else. Watch for synchronicities when you start to do this. If you wallow in the old, dear ones, nothing will happen differently. Did you hear that? If you wallow in the old, nothing will happen differently. And you will continue on the same path with the same issues, going in the same direction. The altar is the altar of joy. It's the inner child inside that awakens happy. And it is innocent of the things around them that could harm them. But it's not innocence in your case. It's wisdom that can steer around them, that can actually change your own chemistry, that can build things that are going to be good for you. Extended life and the end of fear. Extended life and the end of fear. Can you believe that for you, listener? Can you believe that for you? I want you to build that altar. Do it on January 1st. Do you want to make it physical because you've got somebody with you who won't let you do it? Doesn't matter. Make it mental. Put the candles where you want them. Light them as you would, and make each one of them something special that you are achieving. But mainly, it's the joy of compassionate action on this planet. You're seeing God at work. You're seeing you at work. And things will change because numerology and the energies that are starting to occur that are similar to numerology and the field and all of that is now starting to collect into a big six. Do you remember what the six was? Tell me what the six was. Harmony. The big six is on its way. This is you in harmony with the planet. There are some new numbers you're going to see on the clock, and they will mean something to you. But they're not going to be global anymore. They're going to be just for you. You're going to start seeing numbers over and over that are just for you, and somebody else will have different numbers. Numerology is starting even to become more advanced, more intuitive. It'll tell you stories and paint pictures because it's the energy of the planet. This is who you are. Don't take this channel lightly. Oh, dear ones, because you're moving in to a new beginning from lots of nines, completing the old way. See it perhaps even going into a trash can, a rubbish bin. Don't have anything to do with it. See it as brand new. The canvas is blank. And you're going to build an altar and celebrate the joy that's coming. Could it be any clearer? As usual, these particular channels, if heard by those who have no understanding, will be laughed at, made fun of. And those who do that are not in judgment from us, because God is in them as well. There's different levels of awakening. Old souls, you've been here so long, you know how things work. That's who we're talking to. And those who don't see this, they'll have their turn. And perhaps they're just new on the planet. They're not buying into any of these things. They're just not ready. When you were children in school, and you were in the last grade of the school, the ones just entering, didn't know anything, and you knew so much. It is no different than that. There is no judgment of those who would walk away and laugh and call you names. Because your intuition and your wisdom says this is real. All of this is real. And then there are those who say, I want to be part of it. And when you say that, you cognize it, and you are part of it. Welcome to a new planet Earth, where these energies can contribute into the harmony of your life. That's it for now. And so it is.
Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner steps aside, but he's still connected. We have said it before, it is not a takeover. Channeling is not a takeover. Channeling is a meld with permission, an agreement with the consciousness of a human being with his own higher self. An agreement that is not hard to make as long as the box he is in of belief and tradition allows it. And if you have been taught that this is not appropriate, it's difficult to channel. It requires that training and practice where it becomes comfortable. For my partner, it's more than comfortable. For he has admitted to wanting to just stay here and not come back. It's a beautiful place where the human being can sit and be for the few moments where the information is delivered. He becomes a translator. He takes my information and linearizes it, and he puts it in his own language. It's a process. The filters that the human being have, which are then developed by the box of his tradition and upbringing, have to be cleared. And then the message will become succinct, as complete as possible, and delivered in a way that makes sense. And that is why I'm giving him 2 times on this one. Dear ones, as you listen to these things this night, they may not all make sense. And so that is why we give the option to listen to them later, perhaps even for them to be transcribed. So that there would be a time when you could sit with them and ponder them. So that you could link them to some of the other bits of information and understand how they are connected. Right now, my partner is connected corporally with me. And you hear his voice. It is difficult to explain how such a thing could be. Appropriate in all ways, we have told you before. And the ones who are hearing it now are the correct ones to hear it now. And so as I begin this lesson, I want to remind you why we're giving it. For we've never discussed these things in this way. It is time to lay the foundation, the groundwork of the future. And the best way to do it is to give an exposure of how things work inside you. And as we expose these things, we use language that you're not used to, concepts that you haven't really worked with before. And we're aware of that. But it has to start where it has to start. And in the room there are life paths at the moment who are using what we're going to discuss, and some who have no idea what we're going to talk about. That is a respect for the variety of consciousness here. For the steps of learning that you are on. For some of you have been doing this kind of work since you can remember. And others of you are just now awakening to the potentials of who you are. Regardless, we give the story and the teaching as though all of you were on board with all of it. And that is appropriate for the day. There are processes within the human body that are very difficult to explain. They are esoteric processes. We have given you just recently several of them. How they are recalibrating, and just lately, how they work. We've started talking about the synchronicity and how it works with the human body, and Gaia, and the guides, and the other side of the veil. We've given you a lecture on the elusive Akash. How does it talk to the cells of your body? Is it in your brain? Is it not? What does it say? And you can hear these messages in the past. We've talked to you about the conceptual belief systems and how they are starting to work in your favor. And how consciousness is becoming less linear. All of these things would seem to be concepts that are high-minded. But some of you are using them right now. There is one in particular which we have saved till now, because it is difficult to explain, and there are revelations today about how it works that we have not said before or explained before. There is a full system that we have channeled to you in the past called the 9 attributes of the human being. These attributes interrelate in a circle. And I want my partner to teach them in the near future. I want him to develop it into at least 3 parts of training so that people can put them together, see how they're related, and understand themselves better. The 9 attributes, as we have channeled, were 3 groups of 3. Not that difficult. The difficulty starts to see how they relate to each other and what they are and what they might mean to you. How they're connected today, but how they will be connected tomorrow. 9 of them. We told you that 3 of them, 1 in each group of 3, have the same name, the higher self. We told you that there was the human corporeal group, the soul group, and the support group, and that the higher self was in each one of those. But the one we want to talk about today is squarely in what we would call the human corporeal group. And yet, like so many of the others, there's more to it than it seems. And the name of it is innate. And so the word innate is going to be a part of the human consciousness that all of you have at the corporeal level, which we are going to discuss today in a way we've never discussed. Telling you only a little bit about it, but enough, hopefully, to tweak your interest and to make you understand that there's more to you than what you think. Innate. Innate has been described in the past as the smart part of your cells. The smart part. Now that might indicate that there's a non-smart part. But let us say it's a more ignorant part. And believe it or not, that ignorant part is your brain. Now the brain perceives many things, and it's a calculator to the max. It's the best memory instrument on the earth today. Everything that you've experienced is in there. It tempers how you behave, what you do, how you act, what you believe, what you think. But let me tell you where it falls short. It doesn't know anything about what's going on in your body. You can intellectualize for a very long time, and yet you will never find out from the brain how your cells are doing. Do you have an allergy to something you have not experienced yet? Perhaps. To a food that you have never tasted. To a chemical you have not seen. How would you know? The innate knows. The innate is the smart corporeal body. It knows everything about everything. It actually is as smart as your brain, but in a different way. So what you do to find out if you're allergic to something is to place that something in your hand and muscle test. And that is called kinesiology. A big word for something very simple. And in the muscle testing, you are using the body's chemistry to give you a yes or no signal about something it knows and you do not. Muscle testing. So in the process of that procedure, do you understand you have acknowledged that there's a part of your body system that knows more than your brain? Oh, it knows a lot more than what you're allergic to, my friend. It is so tuned in to your DNA. It is part of your process. It is part of your evolvement. It's more than even that. Innate. Innate handshakes with your higher self at all the three levels we discussed, and that is difficult for us to describe. But if you put it in a circle chart, you'd draw the lines between them and you'd see what I mean. It's your smart body. Does it find a place in illogic to think for a moment that you'd have some kind of a disease attacking your body and not know it? Don't you find it odd, human being, that there are certain kinds of diseases that can lurk in you and you only know it through your discomfort or through your death? And you would never have the signal from your brain except pain. But the innate knows it when it happens. The innate knows it when it entered your body. As the white blood cells go to the places they need to go to fight, and you have no idea, the innate is on alert. What is it and where is it? This is difficult. We told you, dear human being, that the elusive Akash information was not in your brain. You cannot go to your brain to find out who you used to be and when. Because the brain only receives that information as it needs it, as transmitted from your DNA. The innate is the same. It's not in your brain, but it's in every cell of your body, every piece of DNA. But the difference between innate and the Akash is the innate is on top. It is always broadcasting. It's always there. And if you know how to listen to it and where it is, you can tune in. Muscle testing is one way. There are others. Some of you know. Innate is that which responds to acupuncture. Did you know that? Your brain does not. Innate is aware of all things and is broadcasting all the time. It broadcasts so greatly that it flows right into that which you call the Merkaba of the body. Now we're talking about a field around your body that pulses very strongly with information that those who have the ability to see can read. Welcome to the medical intuitive, who can stand before you in various degrees of success and read your innate. They don't have to muscle test to know you've got something going on. They can see it in the field around your body. Now you think that a medical intuitive is looking at your liver or your heart and is doing some kind of analysis because that's what you understand. That's your box. You had no idea that they are sensing the quantum energy that your innate is broadcasting of your health, of what's going on in the chemistry, of what might be developing inside you. It's different than you thought, isn't it? That's the innate. And that's only one of the things that innate does. It's the smart cellular part of your body, but it's not just about that. What I'm going to tell you next, we have given you before. But I wish to explain it better. Your innate is also a governor of what you need. Now turn a page with me. We have talked in the past about mining the Akash. So let us open that door for a moment. Is it possible, dear one, that you could go into the vast storehouse of the attributes of your past lives and pick out something you need today? And the answer is yes. And the way it's done has to pass muster and permission of the innate. Because the innate smart body knows what you need. It is then the governor, the filter of what you can pull out of your Akash and use. And it will say no to frivolous things and say yes to the things that will allow you to cure yourself of disease, live longer, and increase the percentage of efficiency of your DNA. It doesn't care how you look like you do. It cares about your health. If you want to go into your Akash and pull out something that you need for survival, it's right there with you. If you want to make clearer skin, it isn't. If you see what I mean. It's the governor for mining the Akash. By the way, the Akash is supremely mineable. You have earned what you've lived, dear ones, and it's not in there that far. It's not deep. It all lays in a soup that is available all the time for you. If you have a disease in your body right now, dear one, and you want to mine the Akash in the way that you only would know how, only your consciousness in practice and maturity can work on a problem that is yours only, to mine who you are and who you were, and to bring forward that which would cure it. The innate is responsible for spontaneous remission. For the innate can go in and pull out the things in the Akash and place them into your cellular structure. That's how smart it is. Did you ever sit in a meeting and something is said or a feeling can happen and you get chills? What are they? You would say they are chills of validation. Guess where they came from? The innate. The innate is signaling you truth, not your brain. Dear ones, your brain will get in the way. It's the brain that has the box of belief. It's the brain that has who you are based on experience and memory. It is the innate. But you will go to somebody who can help you to know, and it'll be far earlier than waiting for your brain to give you pain, if you know what I mean. That's also innate. Innate does so many things for you. And some of you are starting to get another picture, and this is where I'm going. It's a concept we have not really broached before. We're going to call it something. Please do not misunderstand. You only have one word for this. The word is called brain. So we are going to give you another concept. The innate is your second brain. It doesn't function like your first one at all, but it is smart, and it is intelligent, and it knows what you need, and it's the governor to keep you from picking up the wrong thing, just like your brain is, in a different kind of way. Let me show you what I mean. Here is a puzzle, a conundrum of medicine. When an accident happens and it severs your spinal cord and leaves you with no feeling or operations from the waist down, there's some interesting things that continue to function. One of them is your heart. Another is digestion. There are others also that function. The organs of the body, many of them, continue to work even though you are told that your brain, your central nervous system, is the one that sends the signals to make them work. And suddenly, the conduit where the signals are sent is broken. So what keeps them going? When you have a heart that depends upon signals from the brain on a regular basis, and the brain is disconnected, and it's still going, how do you think that works? And now I'll tell you, because the innate takes over. It's always there. And the organs will function. Even reproduction happens. The heart keeps going. Digestion, it's a second heart. It's a second liver, you might say. Innate is a second brain. And these are the things that sometimes medicine has puzzled over, and I just gave you the answer. There is another intelligence in your body that is smarter about cellular things than your brain is. So now I want to wrap this all up. What are you supposed to do with this information? I want you to get in touch with innate. It's the heart connection, dear ones. The higher self and the innate and human consciousness are the three human energies that need to meld. Human consciousness, higher self, and innate. When DNA starts to work at a higher efficiency, there are bridges that start to be built between these things. You'll start to feel them when you recognize and sense truth. When you start to recognize discernment and cognize it for what it is. When you stop looking around you for answers, and they come from within. When you put down the nonsense of those who would tell you that you were born dirty, or that there are societies trying to control you, or that everywhere you look there's a conspiracy against you, and you start understanding the truth that you are a piece of God on this planet, and you're smarter than that. Because you can discern what is and what is not happening. The human being becomes smarter when the two brains come together. And you're able then to see your own health situation, to catch things before they get out of hand, to know what you need, to know how you need to eat based upon your Akash, who you used to be, and what satisfies the cellular structure the best. Every single one of you has a different diet based upon what works for you. There is no such thing as an enlightened diet, except for you. We've told you these things before, but we never told you where it came from. The innate is smart. Now, as these things start to build a bridge between them, everything starts to change in the questions that you ask in this room, and they're always the same. How can I? Your name goes here. Every single one of you. Well, I like this, but how can I? Fill in the blank. I want to go here. I want to know this. How can I? Fill in the blank. And the day is coming when you never have to ask. Any more than today when you would ask, how do I get from A to B? You don't stop somebody on the street and ask them how to walk. You don't ask somebody how to get in your car or where it's going. That is you with you, and you got it figured out. But when it comes to esoteric things, you don't. And you feel you're in the dark. And there's missing pieces. When these things start to meld, the missing pieces will start to fill in, and you're going to be a lot smarter about you. And one of the things that's going to occur is you'll know you're not from here. You're from the great central sun. You're where I am from. You'll know that you're eternal. You'll know that you've had more than only one life. And it'll be something that you know, just like innate knows it. And not something you're trying to intellectualize with the computer in your head. It's the heart connection to the max. Innate is what creates emotion. Let me tell you, dear ones, innate helps you fall in love. It gives you energies that you can't explain that make you just a little nuts. And nobody can explain that. And innate knows all about it. It changes every cell of your body. It's able to ring true. There's nothing like it. Can you see how innate will serve you? And how it shakes hands with the higher self and knows about God and you. And this has been our story for this day about something in you you may have not known the extent of it, what it is, how it works, how important it is. And it's you with you. It's not an entity inside you, dear ones. It's you, the smart part of yourselves. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.